Time, and today I will show you how to save data from Flutter app to Google Sheets. So before starting, let me show you the demo of this. So this is an app which I created. It's Flutter Web. So basically what we can do is we can just simply submit our data. For example, I'm submitting my name and then the email address. Okay, if I click on give me the source code, it will load and you can see we have the data over here. I have also used a Flutter URL launcher so I can send them to the GitHub. So this is basically what we can do with by saving the data from our Flutter app to Google Sheets. In this tutorial, we are not going to go in deep on creating the UI, which is not the essential of what we are here to learn. We are going to learn how to create a very simple app through which you can store the data from the Flutter app to Google Sheets. So for this, I have created a new project. Okay, so this is the boilerplate code. Hopefully the text size is perfect. So I'm going to get rid of the comments first of all, and then I'm going to remove this my home page as well. And the first thing is basically the whole tutorial should be divided in two parts. First, we will be setting up our app script or the Google Sheets, and then we will be setting up our Flutter app. So let's first do the Google Sheet part. So let me go back and create a new blank project spreadsheet. You can name it anything you want. I'm just going to name it example sheets, something like that. Okay, now we will be defining the names of different columns or basically the data which we want to save. So for our project, what we are doing, we are going to save the name, we are going to save the email, we are going to save um, something like a mobile number. Yeah, mobile number. Okay, and then we are going to save feedback. Fine. Okay, so once you have defined all of these, then what you have to do, you have to go to the tools and click on script editor. By the way, guys, I am using incognito mode. The reason was for some reason the this was not working. It was showing some kind of an error. So I tried it in incognito mode and it's working fine. So if you're facing any kind of error when you click on tools and when you click on script editor, it's saying it's not exist or something like that, then you can just try it on an incognito mode and it should work perfectly. Okay, so this is basically how AppScript work. It will kind of create a web API um, which we can use from the Flutter app by using the dependency of HTTP and getting the data from that. So for this function, how we will be doing that? So we need to understand how this basically works. So this is kind of a JavaScript or something. I'm not 100% sure because that's not my field. But the main thing is how we are going to write this code is what we want this to do. We want this to open the Google Sheet. Okay, then we want this to get the parameters which are provided through the app and then save them to the row. So how we do that through code is we will create a function and we can name it, let's say for example, do get, and then we will have a do get function, sorry, and we will have a request in that. Sorry. So the first thing which we will do is we will open up the Google Sheet. So how we are going to do that? We are going to define a variable which is going to be sheet, okay, and then we will say spreadsheet app and dot. There is an option open by ID. You can see, right? So what is ID? So ID is simply if you go into the URL of it. Okay, so in the URL of this below before the slash of edit and after the slash of D, this whole part is the ID of your spreadsheet. So you just need to copy it. Okay, so I copied it and I remove this ID and I paste that. Okay, then semicolon, done. So now the next step is, okay, so I have not ended it, semicolon. Perfect. Okay, so the next step is going to be defining a variable for result. So we want to make sure that we are tracking if it's success or failure. So we will define the result and we will say status. So status and we will say success. Okay, semicolon. Okay, done. Next we will have a try catch. So basically we want to, okay, what am I doing? Okay, so now when we are requesting the parameters and when we are saving the data, we want to make sure if there any kind of error, exception happens, we can catch that. Okay, and we can say that the status is failed. So we are going to use try catch. Okay, so in the try, what we are going to do, we are going to get the variable as I said. So variable, the first is the name. So we are going to use the request dot parameter dot name. Okay, then we are going to have a variable for email request dot parameter a variable mobile number request dot parameter mobile number. Then we have a variable for feedback is equals to request dot parameter dot feedback. Okay, so these are all the variables which we have. We will be defining the exact same over there. Now what we want to do, we want to append the data on the Google Sheet. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to say variable row data is equals to sheet dot append row. Okay, so you can see append row, and now we will provide all the details which you want. We want to save the name, we want to save the email, we want to save the mobile number, and we want to save the feedback. Okay, once that's done, okay, actually we are providing a list, so we should be using that. Correct. Okay, then we just will end it with a semicolon. Okay, so this is all done what we have to try, and now let's make sure we are catching the exceptions as well. So for that we are just going to write result is equals to just a second, result is equals to status. So status that's going to be failed, and then we are going to say message exe. Okay, so major of it is done. I think we have the Google spreadsheet and stuff. Okay, so now to get the result, what we are going to do, we are going to say return, and then we will say result. Okay, I got quite an out. We have to be inside this. Okay, so we'll say return content service, and then we'll say dot create text output, and that's going to be JSON dot stringify, and then result. Okay, then what we are going to do, then we are going to say dot set mime type, and it's going to be content service dot mime type dot JSON. Okay, so what we did, we basically get and open the spreadsheet by ID. We define the variable for success, we get all the variables, we save them to the row, and we also catch the exception if we can. uh, we do. So one thing which is missing, guys, is we have the try catch, but actually I think I should add one more. Okay, that's kind of messy. Hopefully now it's fine. We have exception. I have bad habit of setting up the code is quite easy in Android Studio or IntelliJ, just option command and else. Anyways, it's arranged, I believe. So it's done. Now what we have to do is, so we are opening the spreadsheet, we are saving the data, we are also catching the exceptions. Now we need to publish this. So click on publish and deploy as a web app. I'm going to name it sample sheets and click on OK. So it's saving the code, and now you have to just give it, so I'm going to say initial new version, something like that, like main initial version, anything. I'm not able to. So execute the app as me, and who have the access? Only myself too, anyone, even anonymous. Okay, then we will click on deploy. So it requires permissions, so just click on request permissions, review permissions, sorry, choose the account, and click on advanced, go to example sheets. So it will ask for this permission, just click on allow after reviewing the permissions, because it's your account and you should be the one who knows that. So, okay, so once all that is done, you can just copy the URL, and this is going to be the URL which we will be using in the app to get and set all these different details. Okay, so once that is done, our Google Sheet setting up and all the things are done. Now it's part for our app. So I'm going to open up this app which is a fresh project. I'm going to go to the pubspec.yaml file and then I'll just add http and package just get. So it will say exit code 0 and it's done. Now what we have to do, so we will firstly create a model class. So we have some error over here, right? Let me create a stateful home page and get rid of that. Okay, so we are going to create a model. So I'm just going to create a package, and then I'm going to create a model. Let's name it feedback form, and this is going to be class and feedback form, and it's going to be having different details. For example, the string, we have name, we have string, we have email, we have string, we have mobile number, we have a string, we have feedback. Okay, so we have all these details. Now we can just simply write feedback form constructor, and this dot name, this dot email, this dot mobile number, this dot feedback. Okay, so it's done. Now we will have a method to get parameters. So I'm going to say string to param, and then we are going to say the string. Okay, so it's going to be question mark name is equals to dollar name, and okay, sorry, and what we have then, we have email is equals to dollar email, and we have mobile number is equals to dollar mobile number, and we have feedback equals to dollar feedback. Okay, so that is a method to get parameters, and yeah, it's done. Now what we need to create a controller. So we are going to go to the library, create new file, dart file, and name it controller. Okay, so in this we are going to say class, and because it's a form, so we are going to say form controller. You can name it whatever you want, and Now first of all we are going to have a callback function to give the response of status of current request. So it's going to be final void function string and call back. Okay, so we are going to define it later, initialize, then the error will be gone. Now we need the Google App script web URL, which we have here. I'm going to copy that. Then we can basically define it like static constant and string URL. Okay, so that's done. Now we will say static constant and status success. Okay, so that's done. Now let me define this form controller simply this and this dot callback. Okay, now what we have to do, we will create kind of function to submit the form. Okay, so we'll say void submit form feedback form, so basically the model, and then feedback form. It's going to be async, reason being we are going to do a process which takes time, and we will say try catch to make sure we catch the exceptions if we have any. Here we'll say exception, print the exception. Okay, in the try what we will do, we will say await. Okay, http dot get, we have to import this. Okay, so we have to firstly import http dot dart as sorry guys, http. Okay, now we can say http dot get, and after that what you have to say, simply we have to pass in the URL, right? So we will say URL plus feedback form dot to parent. So we initially pass the URL and then we have this parameters, right? Then what we have to do, we pass the parameters, and these parameters are being received over here, getting and then appending to the row. Okay, so we have that done. Now what we want to do is we have the parameters. Okay, then we will say what are the response, what is the response which we get, response. Okay, because according to the response we will execute, and call back, we'll say convert. I need to import that http convert ix convert. Okay, it's going to be convert, I think. Yeah, convert dot json. Okay, this is going to be used as convert, then we will say not that directly, but actually convert. Okay, sorry, import convert dart convert, and we will use it as convert, but write it outside. Okay, so then we will say convert json decode. Okay, and in that we are going to say response dot body, and then we will say status. So status. Okay, so we are now receiving the status of what happens, the response what we are getting. So as you may can see over here, I just don't want to close this. Okay, let me now close. Okay, so now you can see over here we are saving the result as status to be success initially. Once we are trying that, if for some reason we catch an exception, we are setting that to be as a failed, or else it's already set it as a success. So once that all is done, we have the submit form done. Okay, now let's move on to the UI and the main stuff where we are going to accept the details and things are going to happen. So let me open it up. What should we can create a web one or an app. I believe major of the people will be creating an app, so that's what we are going to choose. So I'm just gonna select, let's say, emulator simulator. My god, okay, so let it load for a second. Now what we will need is basically we will have a form. Okay, so to define a form, let's create the form. In the form we are going to, of course, in the children's we sorry in the columns we have to have firstly children's, then we will create a form. Actually we are doing it other way around, so let me do it this way. Just return the form, and inside a form we can accept children child. Okay, fine. So inside the column what we can do, we can have a text form fields, so text form field, and we can give them input decoration. So we can say decoration, input decoration, hint text, and let's say this is the one for the name. Okay, so that's the first one. Then we will have text form field, decoration, input decoration for the email, and one for the mobile number and one for the feedback. So I'll say mobile number and then I'll say feedback. Okay, so these are the different things which will be required. Okay, so not only we want, let me run this app as well. Okay, so what I was saying, we want to firstly get the details or the string from the form field, text form field, and then we will send that to the Google Sheets. So for that we will be requiring something called the text editing controller, which we can use, or you can use directly on changed property. But because we are also going to use validator, so let's go for the text editing control. So let me go at the top above the override, and then what I will be doing, I will be just going to create two things. The first will be the key for the form. Okay, the reason for creating a key for the form is to control the validator and stuff. And so I'm going to say final and form key is equals to, it will be global key, and it's going to be form, just a second, form state. Okay, that is done. And next we will use final, and we will say scaffold key. This will be basically used for a snack bar, global key, and that's going to be form state. Sorry, it's not going to be form state, it's going to be scaffold state. And just a second. Correct. Okay, so now as I said, to get the text field, text from the text form field, we are using text field controllers, and we basically need four of them, right? So text editing controller, and let's name it name controller, controller. Okay, name controller, and it's going to be text editing controller. And then I can say text editing controller, and it's going to be an email controller. Controller is equals to text editing. Okay, text editing controller, and that once again phone number is equals to text editing controller, and then we are going to say text editing controller, and we are going to have a feedback controller. Okay, is equals to text. Done. So we have defined all of these. Now let us create the function as well. What will happen after we will click on the buttons? So right now there is one error, because of which it is not running. Okay, now if I run that. Okay, anyways, so we want a function which will be executed when we click the button, which will get all the text from the fields, and it will send that to our controller, right? So how we are going to do that? Let's create a void submit form. Okay, submit form. Inside of it, the first thing is we need to validate, like as I said, why we are using this form key. We will be validating our form first of all. So I haven't defined the validator for now, but let me just firstly create the function and then we will define the validators for it. So I'm going to say form key and dot current state dot validate. Okay, so it will either return the string or, okay, let me do just one thing, guys. Padding edge insets dot symmetric, vertical we are going to go 50, horizontal around 24. I think that would be fine. Okay, so we can increase it a lot in one. Okay, so we have now the submit form. So we have validated. Now if it will be confirmed, then we will go to this next part where we will use the feedback form which we created, the model, right? And we are going to say feedback form is equals to feedback form, and we are going to just provide all these properties. So I'll say name controller dot text. By this way, what we are doing, when we call this text editing controller dot text, we are getting the text in that field. Okay, so we are going to do the same for this text, phone number controller dot text, and feedback controller dot text. Done. Okay, so this is basically the model which we have created. Now we will say form controller which we created. Okay, controller, and I'm going to call it form controller. Before that, let me import it. Okay, okay, after importing it, what we will do, we will say form controller. Okay, what is it? Did I get from controller? Very good. Okay, sorry for this. It should be form controller, not form. Okay, now we are good. So we can say form controller, and inside of that we will initially give it a string which is going to be response. Okay, and what we want is we are going to print the response. Okay, and then we will do if response is equals to form controller dot status success. Okay, which was this static constant. Then so basically we are right now checking if the status is successful or is it failed. Okay, so now we can show a snack bar. So let me create a function, simple function for it, so that we don't have to write that again and again. Snack bar string message, and it's going to be very simple. Just a second. Final snack bar is equals to snack bar, and we're going to give it a content will be text, and this is okay, this is going to be message, and that's done. Now we will say scaffold key dot current state dot show snack bar, and then we can say snack bar. Okay, so we are basically showing, yeah, okay, so that's done. So we can now say show snack bar, and the message will be feedback submitted. So, okay, and if it's not able to succeed, then we can show that error occurred, something like that. Okay, so this is now set it up. Now what we want, that while this is happening, okay, this part, we can show snack bar that submitting feedback. Okay, so why am I showing this? So basically this will take some time, right? This whole thing will be taking some time to get the response and stuff. So we want to make sure that before that we are actually showing it in this. So we can say form controller, where is it, feedback form. Okay, did I created it again inside? Okay, we have to have this inside this, only in the condition of validate, right? So form controller dot submit form. What have I named it? Okay, I should go inside this submit form, and then we can basically pass the feedback form. Okay, so saying try correcting the name to the one defined. Okay, so it's all done. So we have created these two functions. Now we want to have the validators in these and save the data. So let me go to the form, I'll say key, and it's going to be the form key. Go to the scaffold, I'll say key, scaffold key. That's done. Now we need some validators over here, so I'm going to say validator. And validator, how validator works is basically it checks if that you can have different conditions. For example, over here we will say the value which we are getting. Just a second. Okay, if the value is empty. Okay, just a second. Okay, so if a simple if else, that if it is empty, then do this. If it's not, then do that. You can use a direct one as well. For example, if you can say value is empty, then we will do value, or basically we will say that enter valid name, or else we will just pass null, and that should be it. It should be return, actually return. Okay, let me just go with the value. I'm not sure what am I doing now. Anyways, it should have been working with that. So if it is empty, then we will return this. If it's not, then we will return null. Just a semicolon, a semicolon. Okay, so that's done. Now we can simply use the same validator for all, just making sure that we are updating this field. Sorry, and that, and done. We can copy the feedback. We can say mobile number, and yeah, it's all done. Okay, so we have the validator now. Now we should provide the controllers to all of these as well. So controller, this is going to be name controller. Controller, this is going to be email controller. Controller, this is mobile number controller. Sorry, mobile. What have I named? Phone number controller. Okay, and then we will have controller feedback controller. Okay, so we have controller, we have validator, and we have the decoration. Yeah, everything seems to be done. We can update the email, the keyboard type, but that's not a must. Okay, so let me try that out. If I go to the example sheet and let me type something over here. Okay, we don't even have a button. How exciting that. Okay, so just have a raised button, and it will have an on pressed property, and as well as this is the on pressed property, and we also want a child which is going to be a text, and text will say save data, something like that. And in the on pressed, we just basically want to call that submit form function. And now if I save this, save data button is there. So if I will click on this, you can see, it has been, all these are validated. So we need to have some data in these. I'm going to fill in the data. No need to be perfect, but what can I do? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Feedback. This is awesome. And save data. So it's going to show submitting feedback, and yeah, it's it's working, guys. And yeah, hopefully you don't have any kind of doubts. If you got all of it and was able to complete the project, make sure to let me know in the comments. That really motivates a lot. And yeah, the source code will be given in the link in the description or maybe in the pinned comment, so you can check that out. Thanks for watching this tutorial. If you like the content which we are sharing over in this YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit that notification bell icon so that you can receive the notifications for upcoming videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.